Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat with you guys a little bit about rep ranges and as far as strength training and powerlifting and things go, because I had a subscriber mention in the comments, and I was looking through, they're like, hey, how come you noticing a lot of really structured powerlifting oriented programs, you see like nothing in the 4 to 7 rep range? It's like it doesn't exist. It's like they treat it like this rep range doesn't exist a lot of times for intermediate and advanced lifters. And that's a fascinating point. And you'll also notice a lot of guys, even Westside guys, Louis Simmons, people like that, don't always program a lot of work there. Some would argue that it's your junk volume zone. Yet we see novices make exceptional progress in there, right? My novice 5x5 programs, things like starting strength. A lot of these programs have you doing exactly that rep range, and the majority of your work in that rep range. And for a novice, it builds a phenomenal base. But what people need to understand, it's because it's a hybrid rep range. What do I mean a hybrid rep range? It's relatively heavy so that it carries over decently to 1 rep max strength and maximum strength. But there's enough reps usually that you can generate fatigue and a reasonable amount of fatigue per set. And it's that fatigue and that training volume and those quality reps that give you hypertrophy. But the argument you'll make for the people on the hypertrophy end is like, yeah, but when you start getting up towards 8, 9, 10, 12, things in that rep range, they'll point out though that they have their slightly different recovery. They're easier on you. They don't beat you up as much. You can take slightly shorter breaks and still get the quality reps. Right? That's what people who promote things like the traditional hypertrophy range will point out. But then people who do those hybrid range will say, yeah, but these also carry over to strength better, and the better strength over time will carry over to better workload in general. Right? Even for hypertrophy purposes. So we have this argument back and forth, but then what you ultimately find is that while it's phenomenal for building a base because it gives you the best of both worlds, think of it as, I'm going to make a joke here, think of it as a CrossFit of the rep ranges, right? It trains you in a broad range of training modalities, right? That's what it does. Their little spiel they've done for years is hilarious. I like it though. And by the way, I'm not really hating on CrossFit. It's actually, I think it's much better than people make it out to be. Legitimately, yes. I mean, compare it to goofy stuff like bodybuilding. Come on. CrossFit wins hands down compared to that. So, over to the point. It's a kind of a hybrid rep range as far as goals go. However, as we start getting into more specialized training, what do we find? Well, if you're doing heavy singles already, and you're going to train as much max work, and by heavy singles, I'm talking doing singles. I'm not talking about, let's do 7 sets of 3. I'm talking about any of that, guys. 7 sets of 3 could very quickly put you back into that 80 to 90% rep range, which is what we're talking about. That's what the 4 to 7 rep range is. That represents stuff that is somewhere in that 4 to 7 range, right? Kind of, it's almost a junk zone in regards to this. So what happens is that when you start doing max effort work, your maximum strength is improved more than you would get by doing a bunch of 5s. As a starting strength, guys call it your 5s. So your 5s will build a base. Do your 5s. But they don't increase max strength as much as heavy singles do. Heavy work, truly heavy work, which is above 90%. Not 90%, but above 90%. Heavy work. Which oftentimes you can only do 1 to 2 reps of. And you start talking about 95%, you're not doing doubles and triples with that. Not going to happen, guys. Best of luck with that. So heavy work trains your maximum strength. You lose the benefits of that hybrid rep range. It doesn't do much for you, because you already have a superior training stimulus for that. And if you've got recovery to do a bunch of 5s, you could do more maxes. You could squeeze an extra max in every week if you got room for 6 or 7 sets of 5s. And that's ultimately what we start finding, is that sure, at certain points we can mix the two, but at a certain threshold, it becomes inefficient. Because if you're going to train and do work for max strength, then do max strength. Well, the same thing comes over to the speed work. Where does generally speed work, other than maybe some phases where we'll mess with fives, where speed work happen? The 1 to 3. What do I do these days? More likely to see me do triples, and you'll see me do singles on the deadlift. It's like 20 singles. So what do we see for speed work? Stuff like 20 singles, 12 doubles, 10 triples, right? Things like that, 8 triples. Even with the bands and chains, though, they're usually under 80%. They're back down into those other percentage ranges that you would normally be able to do 8+ reps with, right? But we're doing it for maximum speed. That's your speed strength. It's pure speed. Well, pure speed oftentimes caps out by the 3rd rep. So both the rep range of the 4 to 7 and the 80 to 90% becomes a no-go for that also. Because we can get better speed outside of that. Because all your sets become specialized. Nothing is hybrid anymore as you get more advanced. Everything has a goal. So then we come back over to everything else. Come to everything else. In terms of training volume that doesn't beat you up, and it's easier to recover from, where's your sweet spot there usually? I don't know. Probably close to that 8 to 12 rep range, right? Probably close to that 8 to 12 rep range. It allows you to do the fewest sets with the shortest breaks to generate the most fatigue with the least gym time. Okay? And it doesn't beat you up the same way heavy fives do. It has its own form of fatigue. Now, I come back over, people say, well, don't be a pussy, bro. You just do your fives. No, you're doing ones. If we want to make that argument of the fives for the heavy work, once you've built a base and you don't need volumes of fives, do maxes. Quit being a pussy, bro. And where do people get hurt? Listen to serious strength coaches. Do people get hurt doing maxes? I want you to really think about that. In the gym, real lifters who have a correct base, who know how to train, who understand fatigue management, people don't get hurt on their max work. They get hurt when they get fatigued with a 5 rep max. They get hurt on the 5th rep. Where have you guys seen me pull an erector? My 5th rep on beltless pause squats. I get hurt doing heavy deadlifts. That range, once you're strong, and by strong I don't mean elite lifter strong. Let's say you're a 400 plus squatter and a 500 plus pound deadlifter. You have a base. Where are you going to get hurt? What rep range? Doing the heavy 5. That's where you're going to get hurt. Because it's fatiguing. It creates fatigue. If you're going to create fatigue and you're going to be fatigued at the end of the set, I'm going to recommend you have a weight on there that's light for you. You don't generate fatigue with anything moderately heavy. What I define as moderately heavy, anything above 80%. All right, it beats up your recovery, and it takes too much time in the gym. So if you're going to generate fatigue through training volume, why wouldn't you just use the rep ranges that are easy to generate fatigue in the shortest amount of time? Because we already have the mechanical tension. If you're hitting maxes all the time, you're hitting heavy work, you already have the mechanical tension. So that is the argument made. That's the reason you see a lot. And I'm not saying it's exclusive, because you have coaches who program otherwise. But as people have pointed out, you do see a lot of that. And that's the direction you see me going more and more. That's how I'm training more and more lately. Because I see the value in it. I see the value in it. It allows me to make the most use of my resources. Every single exercise and rep range is specialized. I don't care about it being hybrid per se. I want my heavy work to train my max strength. I want my speed work to make me explosive. I want my volume work to generate metabolic fatigue that I can recover from. That doesn't beat my joints up or my tendons up. I just want it to generate fatigue in my muscles for hypertrophy. It makes sense when you look at it from that perspective. What very quickly happens is that ideal novice range, that 80 to 90% where you can really build one heck of a base, can become a no-go zone if you're trying to specialize and make the most use of your resources, depending upon how your training looks. So that's what's going on with that. I'm not saying it's useless, because it's not. Just saying that oftentimes there's no benefit to using it. There are stronger benefits to using the other stuff and mixing it together correctly. All right, guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.